will give it the tour of how it is currently. Start with the inside. Not gonna paint it. It's just gonna get a little bit more corroded every passing year. From the looks of the headliner, you'd think it was done, but it's not. It's on the way of being done. I gotta box it in. I gotta box it in around the edges here. So, just box it in. Make it look all uniform and army tank-ish on the inside. This was done with 3 pieces, and I just did like a trim piece to cover the edges, so it gives it a nice, clean look. Your friendly neighborhood metal shop can do that for you. I got a replacement steering wheel for this. This is just temporary. Well, it's the stock steering wheel I'm just making the best out of until I get the other one on. And you gotta have your air conditioning. I don't even remember where I got these seats out of. But I got them at the local scrapyard, so I needed bucket seats and they work. If you can pretend to imagine what a 1960s Thunderbird interior looked like, well, they had that console with bucket seats. I'm going to copy that principle. Won't look as nice and elegant, for obvious reasons, but it's got the bucket seats and a console down the center like you would see in a Thunderbird. So mine will be more industrial. Oh yeah, chain seat belts. They'll make a man out of you. But I have options. I can go with regular. Or with chains, depending how much of a masochist I feel like on a given day. Oh, let's see here. Gotta have a cracked old 40, 50-year-old oil pressure gauge from an International. It works. See, that used to work. I have yet to fix that. I just fill up everywhere I go. Ideally, I'd like to have a tachometer that goes up to $4,000 because these Cadillac engines aren't known to rev to the moon. They're low RPM motors. In a sense, they function like diesel engines. They make all their power at 1,500 RPMs basically, so anything past $4,000 is useless. But it's hard to find a gasoline electronic tachometer that's, around $4,000. I'm sure they are out there, but I couldn't find any. So I found this one that does work. It's vintage. It fits the look of the car, so I just put up with it, even though it says $8,000, which, like I said, anything past 4 is useless on a Cadillac engine. Integrated that. Speedometer needle fell off, but who the fuck cares? In rat rods, you just want it to look good and half-ass functional, so we're there. Got the air pressure, volts, and vacuum, wipers and lights. The essentials. It's a battery cutoff switch. I have yet to hook it up, but I got it set up to do so. Emergency shutoff valve for the air horn setup. It's not currently installed, but it's in the works. Haven't got the back part done. It's just going to be like that, but for the rear. I'm going to box everything in so it's going to look nice and industrial-ish. Everything is going to get boxed in. Now, I'm going to eventually put in if you know what a lightning rod shifter is for Oldsmobiles, I won't put in something like that, but there's a guy in California who makes modified versions of that, where he takes a design and gives it a more industrial look. That's definitely going to go here, because I believe it's 1, 2, 3, and 4 sticks. It looks like something out of a backhoe. That'll look badass right here. It's going to go right into the console. And I'm going to put on each fucking lever is going to have a metal rod connected to it, and it'll be pivoting. So you got your sticks here, you have your sticks here, and there'll be metal rods connected to each stick. So when you push it forward, the metal rod goes forward, following each stick. So it looks just more industrial That I'm just going to do for the aesthetic part, to give it a more industrial look. Those shifters I'm talking about like $600-700, but they're worth it. Let's see if I can get this 500,000-pound hood open with one hand. When you armor plate it, things get heavy. Hence the obviousness of it. Now this is just the introduction video. I've since done things, you know, a while back of this year. I brought it out, you know, to do some updates. I got videos of that, so... This whole thing I'm showing you doing the walk around, that's just the introduction. I got videos of doing the updates of what I did to this car to make it roadworthy. Or more roadworthy. Like I used to have the stock rectangular headlights. They're supposed to be flat, but I did them this way. When you do it that way, they only light up about 2 feet by 60 feet of the road, so it's like slits, so they do no good. So it's not no point to drive it in the middle of the night, but I put circular ones on there. So I was going to take this thing 100 miles out of town to some car show. And if I'm going to be driving at night, I might as well make it, you know, functional in that regard. So these were pretty damn good. Remove the condenser and I put in electric fans. I still have the stock fan. They're only there just to go on in the middle of heavy traffic. I mean, with the setup I got here, the engine bay is going to get pretty damn hot, so... I got these here just to kick on with a toggle switch. When I'm stuck in traffic, I'll just flip them on until I can go faster than 10 miles an hour. External transmission cooler. Seems like a good spot for it. Because, you know, anything is better than just having a radiator on its own do the work, so... Everything in this car is trial and error. And it leaks. I'm sure I didn't tighten the hoses down enough. That's what the red hoses there. It's for the transmission. You know, it connects in there, it goes into the cooler, so... It's dripping. It's not a big deal. Just haven't tightened it down enough, so... These work. Get cold air into the motor, so... It's breathing in air from the outside, not the hot air, so... Car definitely liked that, so... And I ditched the Mud Terrain Federal Kugra tires. Or is it Federal Kugra? There we go. MTs, Mud Terrain. I ditched those because there's nothing really wrong with them. I decided to change it up for regular 235/75 R15s. Just for better handling on the road. I sold them. I did it for looks anyways. I rolled with them for like 5 to 7 years. I don't really remember what year I got them, but they've been good to me, but I decided to go back with regular ones, and I may fill in the lettering. I may fill in the lettering with solid white, so just give it like a white lettering on the side there. That might be a good look. Something down the road to think about, but yeah, I just wanted the car to roll down smoother on the road at least, so that's why I did that. That is the most anti-Cadillac sound ever, the way it shuts. You know, of all the areas of the car to armor plate, the roof was the hardest just because it's shaped like a Pringle chip. It bends in all directions, so... And I'm not a metal guy, and I end up forced to being one to do this project. So... When I started, I knew nothing, and when I got done with it, I knew some things. Not gonna say I'm an expert. I'm not that, you know, much of an asshole. I know more about metal work than I did when I started. I'll leave it at that. And you wouldn't believe it. I've driven this in a few rainstorms, and it does not leak. You'd think it'd be like a spaghetti strainer at this point, but it's not. Like I'd care, but it doesn't leak. So this is the hardest because you got to make sure everything fits without doing the lasagna noodle. And I had to hand tighten these with a, you know, the cross point screwdriver, you know, God, there must be at least fucking 500 of them on the roof alone. Hand tighten them. Believe it or not, when you tighten these down, the plates shift just a little bit and you get a gap here and a bigger gap there and just wouldn't look right. So you have to like tighten them like in the center, here, 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 here. It's like doing head bolts. You gotta do them in a certain order. Do a little bit, little bit, little bit, little bit. This whole fucking roof almost took me a year alone to do. Just to get it at that's about as good as I can make it by hand. And I cut these in an electric shears from Harbor Freight. That tool is pretty badass. I definitely keeping that and made sure we're cutting the metal pieces. I mean, it's, you know, for an amateur, right out of the box, gonna armor plate his car. Actually isn't that bad when you look at it. I mean, the gaps are as close as they can be for the tools that I had and the skill that I represent with, so. Go to the other side here. Same principle. You know, I armor plated the hood, and it would do the lasagna noodle, Pringle chip, so I had to put in some relief cuts. Trial and error. I kept thinking, why the fuck is it buckling right here? So I do a little cut, and hey, it fits good now. The thing with being self-taught is your own person becomes the best teacher for yourself. People who are self-taught tend to know more about the subject they're working on than the people went to school for. Yeah, I haven't put a bolt right there. See, that's... I got lazy and said fuck it, but really I'm going to put another screw like this here and close that gap. But like I said earlier, if you're self-taught, people who really, you know, put in the effort, at the end of it all, they tend to know more than people who got educated on it at a traditional school or wherever else. I don't know, it's like your own person becomes just the better teacher of it all. Something like that. When you're self-taught, it's almost worth bragging, I guess. You could say no one hold your hand. Did it all on your own. And this is about 4 or 5 years since I've done this. I mean, if there's any part of the car that illustrates how good the armor plating is, it's the roof. I mean, it's a rat rod, you know, it's supposed to look a little grisly, not perfect. It's just supposed to be, oh, a rat rod in that regard. It's supposed to be rough around the edges. At the same time, you still want to do a decent job, at least. I mean, if you're going to armor plate it, get the pieces close together as much as possible. So that's the whole gist of it all. We're just doing a simple walk around of everything on tail of this car. Up close and personal. That's aluminum diamond plating. I got so fucking tired of the plastic crumbling and breaking. And that became a thing on its own. The nice, you know, the shtick of this car is nothing's fake. Nothing's plastic. Everything is real and metal. That'll never crack or break apart. Now, I didn't do the welding, but I did everything else, so... Now, the story with these nuts is... They came off an oil refinery. At least that's what I was told when I got them at the metal shop. That, you know, they're the ones that welded this together. Because they can weld aluminum. And they also had a giant fucking nut sitting on there. And they told me it came off an oil refinery. And it was actually one single nut. They cut it in half. And they gave it those traditional curved edges like you'd see on any other nut. The reason why I did this is just to mock those people with the lifted trucks who put, you know, those nut sacks hanging off their trailer hitches. I don't know, I always thought that fad was silly, so I just made a mockery of it. It was actually real nuts. And these weigh about 20 pounds a piece, so God help the son of a bitch that's behind this car if those should ever fall off, but 20, 30 feet of barbed wire wrapped around the bumper holding them on should make damn sure they don't fall off. Oh, I don't know how long this video's gonna be, but you know what? It can be as long as it wants to be. This car's sat in the garage for ages, so I'll take my sweet ass time. Seriously, I've been doing every other car in the universe but this one, and this is like my most memorable car. This grill weighs about 80 pounds. It's thick steel that I had laser cutted into L pieces to fill in what used to be the front clip. You know, at first glance, you'd say, oh, it's just, you know, okay, the guy just made a custom grill. Whoop-de-doo. If you look at it, you know, it matches the body lines of what used to be there. I got the inspiration from the computer game Doom. For those of you who know about that game, it's just basically you're fighting demons from hell. But there's one particular demon on there that I got inspired with this type of idea, is the cyber demon. He's basically, it was a biological demon, but parts of its limbs and chest and everything got replaced with, you know, mechanical parts. Mechanical legs, you know, a rocket launch for an arm. I'm like, that's a cool idea, so I'll fucking just barbarically cut the nose off of this car and just insert a fucking hardcore metal grill. At least that's where I got the inspiration to do that. And I just repurposed the hood ornament onto here. It's kind of the mascot of this car. It's been with it since I've owned it, so it's not going to go anywhere. And I wanted this grill to be fucking tough as nails, so, and I'm thinking I could just cut one piece and a second piece and weld them together, but just cut them in one big piece, like an L piece, so if I ever run into a deer, it's going to julienne slice it. You know, honest truth here, if I ever see a deer in front of my path, I'm going to hit the fucking gas. I want to see how much damage this car can do to a deer. I don't fucking care. If it was any other car, I'd slow down, but this thing, I'd fucking get the kick down going. Plus, we got too much deer around here in Minnesota anyway, so there's no guilt on that. I don't care. Deers die all the time just running in the middle of traffic in general, so. Anywho. Exhaust pipe for a top radiator hose. Don't have to worry about that wearing out. Why do these look like church organ pipes? That's why those black rectangles are supposed to look like flutes. When you close the hood, you know, these will stick out right on top of it, so they look like church organ pipes. Kind of gives off to look like I ripped off a Catholic church. I can also take off the top half, so the idea there is I wasn't sure how the cops would react to having demo headers on a car in the middle of town. To my surprise, they don't give me any crap for it. Then again, I just drive it normally when I'm in town. I ain't asking for trouble. I know how the cops are with cars like these, so I don't test them. I just drive like a little old lady when I'm in town, you know, the smart thing to do. And I was at a red light with the sheriff, and he looked at me, I looked at him, and he didn't do anything. I mean, I got collector plates on this car. That's a story in itself, but he knows this thing ain't a daily driver, so he gave me a pass. It's obvious, you know. As ridiculous as this car is, the cops don't pull you over, but if you're just driving normally, they obviously know that the guy who drives the car isn't going to dick around with it if he's just driving normally to shows, so it is a show car. That's why I think they don't give me hassle because of the pipes, but before I came to that conclusion, I had this idea, well, in case they do give me trouble, I'll take the top half off, so the bottom half will be under the hood. The car will still be loud, of course, but it won't look loud. I did that in the hope that if cops ever looked at this car, the cops are looking at it, well, they won't see pipes sticking through the hood, which is like a universal flag of loudness. So at least if it doesn't look loud, maybe it'll be enough to get me by. I don't have to go that far, at least. So I just let them complete. I just did that as an option in case they did give me trouble, which they never did. They more or less care if you have window tint, which is fine. Just roll down the windows and whoop-de-doo. You know, just like the fronts. You know, these are just, you know, more of them, more bolts. You know, I just use them as spikes. That's all I could really think of for the trunk, to tell you the truth. Couldn't think of anything else to do with it. For now, at least. I may have more ideas the more I think about it. For now, you know, just straps with bolts. That's good enough. Now, I mentioned that I thought about getting another rat rod, or at least another car to contend with this guy. The only idea I could think about is just getting a really, really pissed out, rotted out Ford Galaxy, or a mid-60s two-door Chevy Impala or Caprice, or a Buick Wildcat, or some 60s two-door muscle car that's really fucking decrepit. Like sitting in a swamp type of decrepit, you know, pull it out, and like if half the hood is fuc't gone, just replace it in the most barbaric way, like full-on Frankenstein. You know, if 3/4 of the rear quarter's gone, you know, barbarically patch it in. You know, like it's like you're going Frankenstein, you know, but at level red. That idea I still like. If I could find a, you know, something like that, I may work on that down the road. But that's pretty much it. That's the gist of it for this. It's a bit of a long video, but there's a lot to look at, so. There will be more videos of it down the road. This is just a, hey, I didn't sell the car, it's still with us, so it's one of those videos.